David Bowie's Let's Dance album, released on April 14th, 1983, marked a turning point in his career. It was his 15th studio album, his first release after leaving RCA Records. It marked his collaboration with Nile Rodgers of Chic as the co-producer. The album featured a post-disco sound along with elements of dance pop, dance rock, and new wave. The album included 3 cover songs, and for the first time in his career, Bowie played no instruments but only sang. The album was recorded in New York City, and its sessions featured players from Chic and Texas blues guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan on the guitar. In this video, we'll explore the making and legacy of David Bowie's Let's Dance, which celebrates its 40th anniversary. Please stay until the end of the video because I will be listing 10 controversies surrounding songs on the album. In 1980, David Bowie released his 14th studio album, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. He achieved what biographer David Buckley called the perfect balance of creativity and mainstream success. However, following the album's release, Bowie's world was rocked by the murder of John Lennon in December of 1980. This affected him deeply, so in response, he canceled the upcoming Scary Monsters tour and he retreated to his home in Switzerland. He became a recluse, but he continued to work on different projects. Despite his self-imposed isolation, Bowie continued to collaborate with other artists, including Giorgio Moroder for the title song of the 1982 Paul Schrader film, The Cat People. During the same session, Bowie also recorded Under Pressure with Queen, and in addition to his work on film soundtracks, he took the lead role of Joseph John Merrick in the Broadway play The Elephant Man between July 1980 and January 1981, and he filmed an appearance in the Uri Idel film Christiane F. In 1981, Bowie emerged from his retreat from the play of the title role in the BBC adaptation of Bertolt Brecht's play Baal, directed by Alan Clark. He also recorded an accompanying soundtrack EP, which was released through RPA in February 1982, to coincide with the transmission of the play in March. Throughout the year, Bowie made film appearances in The Hunger and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, both released in 1983. It was during the filming of Mr. Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, that Bowie developed a fondness for artists from the 1950s and 1960s, and they would include James Brown, Buddy Guy, Elmore James, and Albert King. These musical influences would greatly shape his new album, which was yet to come. After selecting Nile Rodgers as his producer, Bowie began preparing for the album that would eventually become Let's Dance. He entered the studio with a clear idea of the sound he wanted to achieve, a commercial, dance-oriented sound that would appeal to a wider audience. Bowie had already achieved great success with his previous album, Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, but he wanted to start fresh with a new label and a new approach. Bowie and Rodgers began a collaboration at the Continental in New York City, where they discovered their shared love for old blues and R&B music. According to biographer Nicholas Pegg, Rodgers was a natural choice for Bowie, given his track record of producing successful dance hits like Sister Sledge's We Are Family and Diana Ross's Upside Down. Despite having the option to work with other prominent producers like Quincy Jones, Bowie chose Rodgers because of their shared musical influences and chemistry. The recording process for Let's Dance took place at the Power Station in New York City, where Bowie had also recorded Scary Monsters. The sessions were completed in just 17 days during the first 3 weeks of December 1982, with Bob Clearmountain serving as engineer. Nile Rodgers, the producer for the album, believed that the sound of the record was enhanced by the ambience of the studio and the skill of the hired musicians. Bowie intentionally sought out new musicians for this album, hoping to achieve a fresh and unpredictable sound. Carlos Alomar, who had worked with Bowie for many years, was initially slated to contribute, but ultimately declined just because of the low fees. And now for 10 controversies surrounding the album. The first one was that this album was very commercial. A lot of fans and critics felt it was a departure from his earlier experimental work, and if you listen to the album now, and it's like the most 80s sounding album like ever. It's just such an 80s album. So that's the first one. Second one is There was a lot of criticism with Modern Love, some sort of just very like a superficial pop song. We know David Bowie as someone who had more depth in his lyrics, and this was just kind of like a fluffy kind of song. And there's going to be more of that in the next few controversies. Number three. So in the song China Girl, Let's Dance, there was a lyric where a lot of people felt that was a reference to like Nazism, and then they just kind of like let it slide by. So that was kind of like a big deal. And number four, there was disagreement over the quality of Without You. Some critics just felt it was just like a filler track or a throwaway love song that kind of like took away from the album. And number five, the significance of Ricochet in Let's Dance, some saw it as like a nod to Bowie's experimental roots, but others just like didn't get it. Number six, the song Criminal World was kind of controversial. It was banned by the BBC because it had bisexual undertones. Remember, this is back in 1983. If this happened today, nobody would have batted an eye, but back then, it was a little more of like a taboo subject. Number seven, there was criticism because it was more of like a new wave album, and there's like a lot of like pop reggae groove on the song Criminal World. Kind of like felt it was very like superficial and not really great cover that was originally done by the band Metro. Number eight, there was some controversy with the decision to remake the song Cat People for Let's Dance. Sometimes the critics felt that the original was the better song, and the song was co-written by David Bowie for the 1982 film, which I mentioned before in this video. But some people didn't like the newer version. Also, number nine, there was like an analysis of the significance of Cat People in Bowie's career. It was kind of a departure from his earlier glam rock sound. So they kind of felt that, once he did the song for the Cat People movie, he kind of like was kind of like abandoning or, changing his sound. And controversy number 10, there was a lot of criticism with the closing track, Shake It. A lot of people felt it was just a forgettable piece of fluff, as they say. It was just like a filler track, and it just didn't measure up with the rest of the album. So as we have seen, the controversies surrounding David Bowie's album Let's Dance are numerous and diverse, ranging from criticism of the commercialization of the sound to debate over the quality and significance of individual tracks. Despite these controversies, however, Let's Dance remains one of Bowie's most successful and iconic releases, marking a significant turning point in his career and showcasing his ability to adapt and innovate across different genres and styles. Whether you're a fan or a critic of Let's Dance, there's no denying its impact and influence on the music industry, cementing Bowie's legacy as one of the greatest and most versatile artists of all time.